So it's time to start. Good evening all. Let's check our sound. Oh, looks like some echo. Sorry. Let's check our sound again. Please print some plus or other sign to the chat, so I'll know that you can hear me and you see my slides and presentation, and we will start. So sound check in 3, 2, 1. I see some pluses in the chat, so that's really great. So good evening again. Really glad to see you here in our webinar by Ketus Education. And our webinar today will be about the team leaders' first steps, because our webinar is connected to our course, Team Leader, which maybe you know about something, or if you don't know anything about Ketus Education or our courses, you can ask any question in the chat right now, or you can visit our special webinar, which will run in a week after this, where we'll dedicate all the time for questions and answers about our courses, about our approaches to teaching. So don't forget to subscribe on our newsletter, so you will be really on the same page with us about any news that you want to know. So a lot of words for intro, I think, and it's pretty much it. So let's get to know each other. So my name is Alex, and I'm a technical unit leader in the world's biggest classified company named Avito.io. And basically, I'm working in IT more than 14 years. And 9 years from all my experience, I'm leading teams, and I started as a team leader there. So I was a chief technical officer, aka CTO, and now I'm leading several teams in Avito company. Also, more than 6 years, I'm working in educational technology sphere, and I'm a leading teacher on the course TeamLead in Ketus Education. So maybe it would be interesting for you, or if you have any question about my person course, anything which connected with Ketus, you can see my email on the screen right now. It's av.pryakhin@gmail.com. So don't hesitate to contact me, ask any questions, and I will try to answer them as fast as possible. And also, as on every lecture, webinar, and every activity in our educational platform, speaker teacher is not a speaking head which sitting behind the camera, and feel free to ask any question that you want to know. So here, right here, right now, you can type in the YouTube chat, and I will see all your questions that you want to know and you want to have an answer, and of course I will answer them as soon as possible. Of course, not splitting up my speech sometimes, but I see every question that you are writing, and of course I'll answer them. So let's go further. Our today's agenda, what will we speak about? So, okay. So first one is that I'm a team leader, and what am I supposed to do here? And of course, we will light up some spheres for newcomers to the role of team leader, of IT manager. It's connected to every engineer that you can describe. So it's developer, DevOps, QA specialists, anything. The second type of questions will be connected to questions that there is a bunch of work and where should I start? How will I deliver all the stuff to the end? And of course, some experienced guys or girls or men or women can see that that's not my first time here, and possibly I missed something. So now we will try to increase the level of system in your head, and maybe you will have some insights from my speech. So, okay, that was a short information about me and the webinar. Let's get know each other, as I said before. Maybe few words about you, please, in the chat, so I'll know who's visiting our webinar today, or maybe someone who will see this video afterwards or will be interested in the visitors list too. So just a few words. So who are you? How long do you leading team? So maybe your current position, and how do you start your work on your new place, on your new job? So what's the hint inside your work approaches that you are using every time that you are going to the new workplace? Just a few seconds. I'm 2 and 3, Vitaly said. So, okay, that's great. That's great. So, and a few more words about your experience. So, how long do you leading teams? So, or maybe you are starting your career right now. So basically, our course is dedicated for all 3 groups, basically, if you want to know, and we will cover questions in a way which will be interesting for every single group of this. A year, okay, great. So a year is quite good term that you already spend in company and you get know everything which is running inside, and you can see clearly what can you improve, what can you be useful in, let's say so. I'm starting as a team leader. Thanks. So, okay, let's go further. And since we are managers, we need to align a lot of themes inside that are really connected to so different topics. And of course, we want to have a system there, the system in our heads, just not to forget anything and to cover all the topics that we need to cover. Of course, when you are coming to the new company, you cannot cover 100% of all, but we need to see the overall picture. And here, the first hint that I want to present here to you, maybe somebody will be known with this picture. And this picture is 4 dimensions of ITIL. So ITIL is a management framework in IT, IT infrastructure library, which is the implementation of ITSM, service management principles. And here we need to split up our work in several zones. Of course, in the heart of our work, of our productivity, of our daily business, lies value. Without value, really our work is under question mark. What are we doing there? So, value, then product. Of course, value is being created by product. So every product should has value. And this product or service split up to 4 huge zones. First of all, it's organizations and people. So you need to know your team, your stakeholders, your colleagues, and you need to describe how to participate between them, so how to organize their work between each other. And also, of course, you need to be strong in people management, so you need to know the personal interests of each other, team interests, and so on and so forth. Of course, the second zone is IT, information and technology. So here's your technology stack, licenses, and so on. And it's interception. It's intercept with third zone as partners and suppliers. So when we are talking about licenses, for example, you need to work with partners, with suppliers, and of course, you're gonna have suppliers from outside of your team, and also they can be internal partners. When you are working as a team leader, stakeholders can be your partners, or maybe you are working in a huge business and you need to find out partners that will help to make your work done. And the last but not least is value streams and processes zone. So as manager, you need to build right processes. Without processes, all the management will depend on you very hardly, really up to 100%. So you can forget about vacations, about weekends, about quiet evenings, and so on. Of course, every process automatize for some extent your business, and you can switch to different topic or maybe to the rest. It's really important. So, and we will go up upon these 4 zones, and let's see how they can be realized in your first steps in a new team. Don't forget to write down questions if you have any, or we will continue. So as I said before, in the heart of every product and every company lies value. So as a manager, you will be responsible for some product or project or something like this. And without value, you cannot make decision, because, you know, in every engineering systems, every decision, every solution is a trade-off, basically. You cannot create 100% perfect, ideal solution. It's impossible. So you will see trade-offs, and some trade-off will be critical for some kind of product, project, or company, and some trade-off is really the trade-off which you can manage. So, for example, there is a huge framework named SAFe, for example, Scaled Agile framework, or for example, any other. Let's stay with the SAFe. Okay, and when you are working in a team or maybe company which has, I don't know, 2 or 3 teams, of course you will not use the SAFe framework. It's really doesn't mean at all. From other side, if you are working in a huge company, in a huge IT or not IT business, depends, this framework can be applicable for you. And you know that implementation of this framework will cost you time, because you need to support some kind of meetings or rituals and so on and so forth to make this thing work in your business. So this is an example of trade-off. And with this trade-off, you can make a decision to use SAFe or Scrum or Kanban or Waterfall and so on. Every process framework, let's say, has its own trade-off. So returning back to value, we can say that without value, without knowing that what we want to do right here and on some visible horizon, we cannot say which trade-off are applicable for us. So why our users are buying our products? Really, maybe you know that for product, you need to measure it. Without measuring, you cannot earn money. Okay, you can earn money, but you won't see, is it really normal amount of money or small or big? I don't know. So you need to have some kind of sets of metrics. So starting from one metric that matters, which describe the core value of a product, splitting up to smaller metrics and so on. And as a manager, as a team manager, you need to know these set of metrics. And of course, you need to go down, go deeper. How it involves IT. What will happen if IT product will crash or fall down? Which metrics will be affected? So how much money will we pay for this? And this is a part of value in your work. So my advice for you, my strong advice, is to start for very first days or weeks to go deeper inside the product value. Talk to product managers, talk to business users, talk to stakeholders. You will get in touch with them. And of course, there you will see what's the core value of your product. And as I said before, the set of metric really lies into the metric tree. And when you will start to talk about these types of questions, you can go to the product manager and say, okay, show me the metric trees. And okay, if they are exists, your product manager will show you them, or it will be the first step to create them. That's really a really useful thing. So you can take it as an artifact from our today's lesson. And based on this metric, you can see the strategy. It's a theme about huge horizons, half year, 2 years, 5 years, and so on. All these buzzword questions. How do you see your evolution as a specialist in 5 years or something like this? So you need to know what's the goal for year, half year. And it's really connected to features that you will deploy, that you will deliver there. And these kind of features will affect and involve your product, your infrastructure. So for example, in a half year, we want to increase the daily active users number for, I don't know, 1 million per day. Of course, you need to think, okay, our current infrastructure, will it support this amount of people, this amount of active users? Won't it fall down? And won't it crash? So the good example, which lights up this idea, is history of one of the biggest e-commerce shop. Well, it was one of the biggest, let's say, pets.com. You can Google it. It was a pet shop, and they really use a lot of marketing. So they create a lot of marketing on football games, on some huge events, and so on. And of course, it started to work. People went to their site, want to buy something that they saw in commercial, but their website crashed, and this amount of daily active users was not applicable for their website. So they thought about the marketing, but didn't thought about the architecture. So this is the idea of how value can involve, how strategy can involve your decisions. Okay, I see the question, should we measure these goals in money or somehow else? So It depends. The right answer in IT. It depends. Of course, key metrics are really connected to money. So how much money do we earn right now, or do we want to earn in week, month, half year, year? And somehow every metric will be connected to money at the end of the days. But for example, if we are talking about daily active users, it's not a money metric, it's the people metric. How many people do we support on our site? But it grows from the money metric. If we want to earn more money, it's quite logically that we need to have more people, more active users on our site. And here we have the conversion from user to a buyer. And there we can talk about acquisition costs and so on and so forth, and a lot of business metrics. But not every metric will be measured in money, but they will be connected somehow to money. Because if you are not working for charity, you're working for money. Every business needs to earn money. So I hope that I answer your question, Vitaly, and we can go further, right? Okay, thanks. Let's go. So we talked about value. Then going back to our scheme, we need to talk about products. So we need to know the product well. And basically, existing IT products really high complex. It contains a lot of parts, and it's not really easy to understand and to support its growth, just keeping all in your mind. How do we navigate through those parts? Of course, we need a map. And here you can use some useful tools. First of all, that's a system components map, landscape map. You can see, so do you have service somewhere, database, or external system, or process, and so on and so forth. You need to know what parts of the systems, or of your system, really build up your system up and running. So you need to know, so here we have the MySQL database, which is, I don't know, 100 gigabytes volume. Or here we have the service which serve for personal data creation and storage, and it should support 100% stability. Of course, it's not impossible, but 99.99, and it should support security and so on. But we have this service, and we need to connect to this when we need to take some personal data to show up, like in a private cabinet. And of course, you can see all this map. And if you want to have an example for the map like this, you can write me down on the email, av.pryakhin@gmail.com. And of course, I will send you an example so you can work with this. The second tool is inventory, because all your systems work on some hardware. You need to know, is it a cloud-based? So you need to see, so how many virtual appliance components do you have there? How many balancers and so on? Why? First of all, because you need to see how is it balanced or stabilized. So, for example, if in your inventory you see big EC2 appliance, like virtual machine, it's huge fat machine, it really allows you to work with several thousand of connections at the same time. But if this machine will go down, everything will stop. So of course you need to see, is it okay for you to have this big machine, or you can split it up to several 2, 3, 5, 10 machines, which will be balanced, within some kind of load balancer. And you can see the parameters of these machines. And of course, the business logic. Without understanding the business logic, you cannot understand how the product works. And here with this tool, or if you do not have this tool, you can use the approach eat your own dog's food, which means that try to be your own customer. Go to your system and try to buy some service. And basically, I really like to use this approach just to see how it works. And especially when you're working in a company for the first days, it's really, really useful to you to know it really works from the eyes of your customers. What can be improved? What can be better? Or is it totally fine? Which I really don't trust here. But nevertheless, so here are 3 tools that you can collect if they exist, or if they are not existing right here and right now. You can start from building them on your very first weeks. I'm pretty sure that it will take you maybe up to a month to collect all this information. It's a really long way, but you will say thank you to yourself in the future when you need to onboard someone, when you need to analyze what can be improved there. So you can base on your schemes and work with them, which is really, really great. So our first dimension on scheme was manage people and teams, of course. So we need to talk about the people management. If you have no questions, as I can see right now on the chat, we can go further. So the team. Basically, in the word team leader, 50% is the word team. So team leader on 50% contains from team. Team will provide features. Team will solve issues. Team will consolidate their experience from different people. Team will create the product. Thus, team will create the value. You need to know your team and really know them well. And the tool here for you will be the TeamLead. Start with this tool. So you need to know names, of course, grade. So is it senior or middle or junior, or maybe you have any other system of grades. So for example, in big tech, like in Avito, we use 8 grades from grade 1 to grade 8, which are really more separated from the classical middle, junior, and senior. For example, you can see the same picture in Google and Spotify companies or something like this. So a lot of amount of grades let you to provide really good improvement plans to your team. But nevertheless, let's go back to our team list. So you can know the grade. Of course, from this grade, you will know the ambition of this employee. Of course, the salary. Well, sometimes salary is a taboo, but that's not a good approach. You need to know the salary level of each engineer in your team. Why? Because sometimes you can see your employee demotivated, and sometimes they get demotivated by salary, of course. If you don't know the salary, how can you predict this? So how can you predict that this employee will be demotivated by money? Well, of course, the history. So any comments? So what's the zone of interest of this employee? On our course, we are talking a lot about the roles and the profiles of employees in our team. And of course, here we need to know if it's money motivated person, or it's tasks motivated person, or if it's growth motivated person. Depends, really. You cannot say that every member in your team will be motivated only by money. that's not really possible in the real world. And you need to be prepared that some employee will be okay-ish with some lower grade or stuff like this, but this employee will require only interesting, not routine tasks and so on. So you need to be prepared for this. And of course, if you are using the performance review system, you need to collect the moments, thoughts, minutes about the work of your employee, because performance review cycle really works like 6 to 12 month cycle. And when you will go down into these processes deeper after 6 months of work, you won't remember what was on the very first month of your work with this employee. So you need to write down the ideas and the points that were achieved or not, depends from the employee. So performance review basically worked on quarterly or half-year basis, and it really helps you to see if the employee works well or not. But a few minutes ago, we discussed that every decision is a trade-off. So do not use performance review in very, very small companies. It's quite an expensive process, and it requires a lot of time to be invested here to support. It's really close to SAFe framework, for example. So it helps you to calibrate your employees and check if they work fine and they can be upgraded to the next grade, or their salary can be reviewed. Depends. But this is a tool for mid-level or higher companies. Just keep it in mind, because it's quite expensive. And of course, when we are talking about team contains persons. Looks like character profile from video game. Basically, it's it's really similar, but you are playing with different types of characters. You have a bunch of them, and you need to control all of them. And like in SWOT analysis, which we're talking about in our course, you can really improve your team with strength of your employees and predict risks, because you know their weaknesses, and you can create opportunities there. So it's really like you are playing a game. You know, being a good manager is really similar to being a good player, you know, a team player and so on. So in persons, you need to know the profile, and you need to upgrade profile regularly. How can you do this? You need to run one-on-one meetings. And basis of this cycle of meetings is like 2 or 3 weeks. You need to create them once per 2 or 3 weeks there. And you need to meet up personally for 30 minutes, up to an hour, not more, and discuss a lot of questions, really, about employee. So what's happening in the employee's life, about any issues, tasks, and so on, and problems, about motivation. Maybe some burnout symptoms will appear. Of course, you need to describe the strategy changes and improvements in your company. Any feedback about your work, because it's not only your meeting, it's a meeting for both of you. So your colleague, your employee, can return with feedback about your work. But beforehand, when you will start this type of meetings, sometimes employees will, especially with a new team leader, they will see really closed, like in a shell, and they want really want to describe their doubts, feedback, changes, or risks with you. And your tasks here is to gain their trust. And in our course, we are talking really closely about this one-on-one process and have a practice work on it. But the idea for this time, for this webinar, is that you really need to have one-on-one meetings regularly, because some students that are coming to my course say that, okay, we have a rule that one-on-one meetings is once per quarter. No, it's really rare. It's impossible rare. You need to have it once per 2 or 3 weeks. It's okay, but not once per quarter. So there will be no trust, no visibility, no transparency. So these meetings will have no value as for you, as for your employees as well. And so when you are working on this, every meeting should provide action items and items to think about and summary after all the meetings. In my team, when I'm working with other managers, which leading their teams, we have dedicated like Excel or Word document where we store our agendas, our questions, our topics to discuss, just not to forget. So it's normal for me, for my employees, during their work, write down some problem and go back there to that problem to discuss it afterwards on one-on-one, because they know in 2 or 3 weeks we will have a meeting and they will have an opportunity to discuss all the questions that they want to discuss there. But you have no action items after those meetings. Well, it's okay-ish for one meeting in a row. But if you will see that 2, 3, 5 meetings, you have no action items, that's a problem. That's a big problem. So there is no trust inside. Think about it. And of course, these documents is a really good possibility to prepare. So create a list of questions and fill it between meetings, so your employee and you will see those topics and you will be prepared there. So you don't need to spend time on this meeting to find out the data, the information, the document, and so on. You will be prepared. That's really comfortable. Well, if you have no team, or maybe your team is not completed, you need to think about hiring. And basically, when I'm hiring, especially when I'm hiring managers, I'm preparing cases, business cases that we are working on interview. And on one of these cases, I'm asking possible manager to provide me a model of the future team. It's really important because you need to know, you need to keep it in mind that every time there will be more tasks in a normal product, okay, more tasks than employees resources that you have. And the first idea that will came in your mind maybe that, okay, I will throw down a lot of resources on this task, on this project, I need to have 10 backend developers to work on. That's a bad idea. So not every task is really ready to start work on, is not really important enough to do it right here and right now. It can be worked on after half year maybe. And to answer this question, first of all, you need to know metrics and value that your product is working on. So as we discussed before, and really afterwards you can answer the question, and how many positions do I really need in my team? And when you answer this question, you can draw the portrait you can describe it, because sometimes I see the vacancy description like, okay, we need a worker, and this worker will work on the computer. Here's the coffee. So that's a bad example of descriptions, but I really see it very, very often. So don't do it like this. So you need to know how this employee will grow up. That's really important, because when you are hiring, especially junior or middle developer or engineer, you need to think about that after a half year, let's be real, after a year, this engineer will need to grow up. So every good engineer want to grow up. And how will you support this wish from employees side? Okay, I see the question. Just let me end up with this slide, and then I'll answer this. Okay, so, and describe the vacancy. If you sell it like the Leo DiCaprio's Wolf from the Wall Street, so make it tasty, make it hot. So don't lie in this like the Wolf from the Wall Street did, but it really need to involve possible employees to see it, to answer it. And of course, be prepared. So prepare some checklist, think about the onboarding and how the trial period will be passed. So I see I'll have to hire a whole team and start from the beginning. So that's normal. Basically, in my experience, I had an example when I was a CTO in a company, which started from 3 engineers, 2 developers, and 1 QA. And in 4 months after active hiring, with all the good processes, we had 35 employees in a team, which is really quite big team. So you need to hire them. And to hire them, you need to work on all the steps that I described here on this slide. So, and here, the tricky questions comes. Should a team lead write a code? What do you think? What's your opinion on this topic? From time to time. Well, the rightest answer in the whole IT, it depends. For practice, I think no. Okay. So it really depends. First of all, it depends on the size of your team. So if you have a team of 3 or 4 engineers, they are working quite fine. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you will have enough time to write a code. I would say for 20 to 30% of your time per week, month, depends. But if you are working with a quite big team, like 7 or maybe more, well, basically, I'm pretty sure that you need to have up to 10, not more, employees in your team and direct management and direct reporting. But nevertheless, you want to have enough time to work correctly with the code. Why? Because when you are working in a code, you need to go to the deep thinking cycle. So, you know, this flow state, so-called. And when you are working in a code, you need to spend a lot of energy, a lot of your recognition skills, because you need to create this glass temple in your mind, which is connected to the inventory, to the classes, to the objects that are connected inside of your program, your code. And of course, sometimes you won't have enough time because you have another meeting and you will have only 40 minutes between 2 meetings. So it really depends. If you have quite big team, be prepared that you will not have enough time to serious coding. Of course, you can make some proof of concept and so on, but your main tool here to write a code is delegation. So is a tool for you just to free up your hands, and also is a tool for employees' growth. So if you will delegate some tasks, coding tasks and so on to them, they will grow. They will earn experience on this. So turning back to our video games. So while delegating, do the introduction. So go deeper into the tasks with your employees. Show them what you want to do. What's the image of the result that you want to have. But don't do the micromanagement here. So just show the image of the result. Just mark down the deadline, the parameters of the result, and just let them work free. So you are working with really grown-up people. Don't think that they will crash up in every 2 hours. No. Okay, always check the result, but don't micromanage. Really, that's really important in correct delegation. And if possible, delegate the entire tasks, not a piece of work taken out of the context. And in the end of the delegation, always return with the feedback. You can do it on a one-on-one meetings, but we discussed before. So choose tasks that only you can solve. That will be your tasks. But be really, really honest with yourself. So other tasks spread between employees will really require a fittable knowledge. And describe the intro, go to selected employee, and explain everything that is necessary to do this task. Decide a touchdown period or deadline. So the touchdown is if there's a big task, like, I don't know, several weeks or months and so on, of course, you need to have some milestones, some control meetings, and you need to split up this period to some chunks where you will control the progress and correct the plan of work. So that's normal. That's not a micromanage. It was really discussed before. But return within a deadline. If you want, no one will really contribute into this deadline, because they see, okay, this deadline exists, but no one controls it. Why should I really work hard on this task if no one will come back into the deadline and no one will ask me what's happening? So let's go from team to technologies, since I see no questions in our chat. And of course, you need to know your stack, technology stack. Technology stack can be split up into really several layers. And you can see the example of this split. So like business logic, technical logic, framework, programming language, applications behind it, distributive operational system, hardware, and each level that presented or not presented here can provide a technology zoo where you can have, I don't know, 8 programming languages within 4 developers. So, one interview provides me the case like that. I really saw a team with 4 employees inside and 8 programming languages in the stack. That was really a mess to work on. Thanks God I didn't accept an offer there. So I think in this case you won't see me here. But nevertheless, you need to control the stack and going evolutionary from the inventory, from the team list. We need to have a list of stack. So, for example, in logic, you can have Java, Spring Framework, Hibernate, and so on. What do you have on continuous integration, continuous delivery process, on storage, on application, on operational system? Of course, you need to keep it in mind, but on a paper, because if you are not Sherlock Holmes, really, it's really bad idea to keep it in your mind. Just use the structure of documentation on your storage or somewhere else. I guess 3 used one language and 1.7. Sometimes really it's real, but no, for every person in this team, it was 2 to 3 languages, so that there were cross sections, but nevertheless. And of course, you need to think about versions because versions can be outdated, versions can be unsupportable. There will be no compatibility backwards or forwards between these versions. So you need to be prepared to go upgrade. And of course, you need to have strict rules. How do you write your code? It's code culture. So where will the model be located? How will the code be written? How will the model interact with other parts of your system? And without previous tools like system landscape, data flow map, process map, and so on, you will be really, it will be really hard for you, let's say so, to support answers on these questions, because everything will be in your mind, which is bad, as we discussed before, several seconds ago. Of course, yeah, in addition to languages, there are frameworks and so on. So you can write down the list of this, and this list will provide you what should be updated in the next few months, because there were a security patch, which is really important to your system, because you are working with personal data and you will be needed to do this because you are providing some payment service, and without this upgrade you won't have a license. So that's an example of the chain that can be happen in your team. And also you can create a technical design review as well as performance review. This process is quite expensive, so it will take several days to work on a document, to discuss the document, to answer all these questions and get all the green flags on this. But basically in our company, in Avito, we are using it actively. So when we are developing a new service, a new product flow and so on, we need to work on tech design review. So we describe the problem which we want to solve. We describe the possible ways of solving. And also we compare these ways on pluses, minuses, like pros and cons. Also, there will be some trade-offs. We need to think about average load, highest peak load there. Also, we need to say that this and this and this question will be out of scope. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, we will have the document which will describe the solution. And with this document, we will go and develop some new services, some new flow, and so on. But as I said before, that's a quite expensive process. But it will provide you a chance to go ahead of issues. So there will be a long-term solutions, not a short-term ad hoc solution, which is working only right here and right now, and doesn't support the growth of the product. Of course, it's open to contribution. Now everyone can go to the tech design review and comment on this. It should be business friendly and user centric, because business need to know what's happening and when they will have this document up and running, because afterwards they need to know the terms of the solution delivery, because you need to start on the development. So that's one of the processes that you can work on. Also, you need to think the environments. So basically every team has a sandbox locally, on developers or engineers machine as development environment, stage environment, and of course production environment. Sometimes some smaller companies has only, for example, production environment, and every test is up and running on a production environment. But of course, it's bad practice. Don't do it like this. You need to think about at least 3 of these environments: so development, stage, and prod. On development, your developers can run their tests. On stage, you can show up this new functionality to business to check up if everything's up and running, and run integration, end-to-end tests, and so on and so forth. And production. Continuous integration is in sandbox, of course. So continuous integration should work everywhere, because the meaning of continuous integration is that you can check up your changes right here and right now after your commit. So you make some change, you need to be ensured that everything is working fine, at least on a low level of code. Of course, you cannot use end-to-end tests on a dev environment, because it won't make any sense. So you can run them really closer to prod environment, and the closest one is stage. Of course, to provide homogeneous environments, so the environments that are similar on productive system, stage system, and so on, you should use infrastructure as a code approach. So when you can describe in a way of code the environment that you want to have. And here we can see Docker, Kubernetes, Terraform systems. Depends on your stack, but you need to think the reproducibility, predictability, it should be declarative, and maintainability. You think about this. So because, for example, when you're using Docker, your, for example, middle engineers can describe their environment without involving DevOps engineers or system administrators, because they know what they want to do. They have a declarative way of the document, of the settings, and they can reproduce it by themselves. And of course, tests. You cannot work with nowadays systems without tests, without the test package, because as we said before, IT systems are really, really complex, and you cannot test it by yourself. You'll need to have thousands of manual testers to check up every single state of your function. So to be 100% sure, you need to use test automation. If you are not using the test automation right now, is the perfect time to think, how can we provide the quality of our product nowadays? Of course, we are already talking about the CI/CD, so I won't stay here for too long. And observability. You need to have proper monitoring and logging on your system. You need to see what's happening with your system right here, right now. What's the average load right now? How many space on your hard drives left? And how many users do you serve right now? And is it connected to the load on your CPU or RAM, and so on and so forth? So do you need to be prepared? Do you need to extend your hardware or appliance? So it's really, really important to have an observability, and it will help you to investigate issues, because in every single company facing issues every day. But if you do not have your observability tools, your investigations will be like running in a dark room, trying to find out the root cause. So observability is a really, really important thing to set up if you don't have any at the moment. And of course, not every solution should be done inside of your team. Some solution can be both. For example, so even bigger companies do not use their own operational system. For example, they are using some operational system distributives out of the box. It can be paid or free, depends, but it's okay to use out of the box products. And sometimes you can have even no code or low code solution or AI, depends, but you need to think about value. So how many resource you will spend before you will get a value, and out of the box products can solve this issue for you before you will spend your own resources based on salary, based on taxes, and so on. And yeah, processes. So for every process, ITIL 4 provides 7 guiding principles. Let's go roughly on 7 of them, all of them. So first principle is focus on value. We discuss it a lot of times on this webinar, and you need to think about value of your product. Every process should involve the value. If it's not, maybe you don't need this process. That's normal. The second principle is start where you are. So don't try to build completely new solution every time when you see an issue. So sometimes you need to start with tools and maybe infrastructure and so on that you have right now at the moment. You need to reuse it before you will invest money, time, resources into building something really new. Then the third principle say that you need to progress iteratively with feedback. Don't try to build a huge system in 1 year without any iterations. So it will be much more comfortable to go with the smaller steps, like 1 or 2 weeks when you are collecting the feedback. The good example here is for the continuous integration. You can collect the feedback after every iteration of your development. The fourth one is to collaborate. So you need to collaborate with your users, promote them visibility about what you are doing. Because after a year of development, it can happen that nothing has value after the year of work, because you did not collect any feedback from your users. It's really important. The next one is think and work holistically. So you need to think about whole the system. Yep. Not only the separated parts, different parts, but whole the system. How it will looks like, how it will work. So what value will it provide, for example? And of course, do not try to create really over-engineering products. So keep it simple and practical. So like from the development practices, the principle of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So it works here too. And only after this, optimize and automate. When you will see that something is working fine and working okay, you need to see how many processes do you need to support manually, and maybe you can automate them. I see the question, how often is good to measure value? So it depends on metrics that you are using, but basically, for example, in our company, we are using quarterly based OKRs, and regarding these OKRs, we are separating two key metrics, key values that we want to provide to user. And during this OKR processes, we split up these metrics to initiatives that within these initiatives, we can provide the growth of the metrics, and this metrics contributes to value of the product, value that we are providing to user. I hope I answered your question. So for tasks creation, of course, you need to have tasks tracker, and you need to track your process. And every task should has really good description. If your task has only the title, it's a bad task. Your task tracker is not working, because if you are creating this task to backlog and you will come back to this task in 2 months, you will forget absolutely anything about this task and you will see only the title. So you can create some template of the task that you can fulfill when you are creating a new task. And basically every task tracker like Jira, Redmine, UTrack, or something like this provides you an opportunity to use templates. So it's really a really comfortable thing to fulfill. Okay, you will see that it will take you a little bit more time to create tasks. And of course, when you need to work more, your mind will show you that, okay, I don't want to fill it, but you will say thank you in the future to yourself, because you will have good described tasks. Now, of course, within the team, you will have the transparent velocity and estimations within this, because without estimations, you cannot predict any progress in your team. And those estimations should be overall. So every member of a team should be included into the estimation process. Okay, it's holy war between story points versus time. Every team should decide by its own why it will be story points, not the time. And of course, you need to think about risks, and you need to decompose the task so they will be done within one iteration. Within this iteration, you need to have the plan for the one iteration, and also to have a vision for 1-2 iteration, quarter or year. So for example, we have a stream plan for the year, so what we want to have during the year, what will be the value of our key metrics, what will be our key bets here. Then we split up to quarters, and within the closest quarter we can provide a roadmap that contains with really precise tasks. So, and business users will create tasks. They should see how these tasks are moving between statuses, and they will see when they will have up and running product to earn money. And of course, you need to have a process of a code review. That's not a process of the holy wars about four spaces between first spaces versus tabs. Of course, it can be solved automatically, but this 4 eyes principle here is really, really useful to correct some stupid mistakes that can be delivered to the production system. So it's really often useful to check twice after your engineer. So that's pretty much it that I wanted to tell you tonight. Maybe you have any questions. Don't hesitate to write down them to the chat. And I'm just reminding you my email. If you will see this webinar in a record on YouTube, don't hesitate to send me questions on the email that you can see on your screen. It's av.pryakhin@gmail.com. And in the description of this video, you will see the link to the review, because we are collecting feedback to every hour activity, and I will duplicate the whole link to the chat if you can see it, or if you cannot see it, you can see it in the description of the video. So as far as I can see, there are no further questions in our chat. Thus, I think we can go to the end. And I'm just reminding you that on the 13th of June, there will be the webinar, which is dedicated for 100% to our new course, TeamLead on Ketus platform. So let's see there. I will really glad to see you and some new visitors there to tell you more about our course, about themes that will be covered in this course, and what you will have at the end of that course. And of course, I want to thank you that you spent this Tuesday evening, and I hope that my webinar today was really useful for you, and you'll have some insights going out from the webinar. And have a great last part of the week. Have a great evening, and see you on other webinars on Ketus platform and Ketus YouTube channel. Mark down likes, subscribe on our channel, and see you. Bye bye.